When the most invisible woman in the building became the most powerful person in the room, no one saw it coming. The office buzzed with its usual early morning flurry. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, and coffee machines hissed to life. Yet as Janice Porter quietly entered through the side door, rolling her cleaning cart at a steady, practiced pace, not a single head turned. Her dark green uniform hung neatly on her frame like armor. Her expression was calm, unreadable, betraying none of the tightly kept emotions inside her. To the executives of Marlowe and Crane, she was invisible, just the janitor. The one who wiped down desks, emptied trash cans, and maybe received the occasional polite nod from the more courteous staff. That had been her reality for over 9 years at the corporate giant based in the heart of Dallas, Texas. Janice, now in her mid-50s, was accustomed to the routine, the way people's conversations would continue like she wasn't there, the jokes made under breath assuming she couldn't hear, the way her presence was treated as something that simply needed to be tolerated. "She's not even doing anything," someone had muttered just last week while she waited silently for a meeting to end so she could clean the room. Janice didn't flinch. She never did. She kept her head down, her pace even, her movements steady. She knew better than to react and feed their assumptions. What they didn't know, what no one in that polished tower knew, was that Janice had a secret that could turn their pristine little world upside down. But Janice wasn't impulsive. She believed in observation, in gathering the whole picture, and in patience. Still, that morning, as she made her usual pass through the bright, echoing hallways, her face remained calm but her heart was near its limit. She was approaching her breaking point. The day went on like so many others. Janice polished glass doors until they gleamed, vacuumed the thick lobby carpet, and carefully organized the desks cluttered with the remnants of executives who never considered who might clean up after them. Their conversations drifted over deal-making, mergers, promotions. But one discussion caught her attention. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop. The voices were just too loud to ignore. "The shareholders' meeting is next week," one executive said, his voice dipped in smugness. "We've got nothing to worry about. The board loves the numbers. And let's be honest, no one in their right mind would challenge Nathan." Janice's grip tightened on her cart. They were talking about Nathan Maddox, the CEO. They had no idea just how wrong they were. She didn't linger on the thought. There was still work to be done, and her moment was fast approaching. Marlowe and Crane prided itself on its sleek, modern facade. The glass skyscraper had been the cover of business magazines, heralded as a beacon of innovation and corporate triumph. But inside, behind the gloss, the truth was much darker. The higher up you went, the more ruthless the atmosphere became. Titles and prestige mattered more than ethics or character. Janice had seen it all. Promotions given to those who shouted the loudest. Blame shifted to the innocent. Private deals made behind closed doors. Promises broken and ethics discarded. And Nathan Maddox sat at the helm of an Alaman known as much for his ferocious ambition as for his icy disregard for those beneath him. His voice filled rooms like thunder, silencing all opposition with ease. His leadership style was grounded in fear and dominance. People weren't individuals to him, they were tools. Replaceable, expendable, forgettable. Janice still remembered the time she heard him sneer about one of the receptionists. "She's still here? Why haven't we let her go yet? Doesn't add value anymore." The environment was toxic from the top down. Bonuses for low-level workers had been slashed without notice, even while the executive suite toasted record-breaking earnings. Expense reports were manipulated. Clients were misled. And whistleblowers quietly erased. Janice had witnessed it all. She watched co-workers, fellow custodians, receptionists, mailroom clerks get reprimanded for the smallest infractions. She had seen tears in the supply closets, paychecks that stagnated, and eyes that no longer held pride or hope. One memory never left her. A young intern had accidentally spilled coffee outside Nathan's office. When Nathan rounded the corner, he exploded. "Are you kidding me?" he barked, eyes darting to Janice nearby. "Clean this up." His tone made it sound like she had caused it. The intern looked terrified, stammering an apology, but Nathan waved him off as though he were swatting at a fly. Janice said nothing, but that moment burned. These moments had built up inside her over the years, each one like a stone added to an invisible weight she carried. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was calculation. She was watching, always listening. And beneath the quiet exterior was a resolve formed over years of bearing witness. What they didn't know was that Janice Porter wasn't just a janitor. She was also the largest shareholder in Marlowe and Crane. Her late husband, Leonard Porter, had been an early investor when the company was nothing more than an idea in a basement. He believed in it when no one else did. He quietly amassed shares while others laughed him off. By the time he passed from a sudden illness, those shares were a controlling interest in the company. Janice had inherited everything. At first, she didn't know what to do with it. She wasn't from the world of corporate finance. She was just Janice widowed, raising 2 grown sons, surviving each day. But she kept going to work at Marlowe and Crane, finding peace in the rhythm of labor and the anonymity of her job. Over time, she realized her invisibility was her superpower. She had the perfect position to observe everything, unnoticed. The final straw came during an evening shift. She had just finished cleaning the executive lounge when she overheard 2 senior managers talking over glasses of scotch. They were laughing about pending layoffs. "Some of these people think their jobs matter," one of them chuckled. "They don't realize how replaceable they are." Janice stood frozen behind the doorway. She stared at her cleaning rag, feeling her chest tighten. These weren't just line items in a spreadsheet. These were people, her people. That night, she sat at her small kitchen table, her tea gone cold, scribbling down everything she'd witnessed over the years. She listed names, dates, incidents. The times people were mistreated. The policies abused. The secrets kept. By sunrise, she had outlined a full plan. She started gathering more information, quietly and carefully. She took mental notes on the flow of documents left unattended on desks, observed badge entries, and tracked meeting schedules. She even snapped a few discreet photos when no one was watching. She wasn't stealing, she was exposing the truth. Then she contacted old friends, former employees who had left in disgust, lawyers with integrity, and financial analysts who owed Leonard favors. She shared what she knew. Together, they built a strategy not just to confront the rot at the top, but to save the company's soul. What came next would change everything. The shareholders' meeting arrived, and the building buzzed with pride. Executives walked the halls boasting of projections and deals. Nathan Maddox strutted like a king about to give a victory speech. None of them noticed Janice pushing her cart toward the top-floor conference room. Her eyes calm, her heart steady. Inside, the room was sleek and gleaming. Glass walls overlooked the skyline. Around the massive table sat the board, top investors, and Nathan himself at the head of the table. Janice entered quietly and placed a pitcher of water on the table, as she always did. No one looked up. Just the janitor. Then, she didn't leave. "Excuse me," she said. Heads turned, confused. Nathan glanced at her dismissively. "We're in the middle of a meeting." "I know," Janice replied. Her tone was even, unwavering. "That's why I'm here." He laughed, smug. "Unless you're here to clean up a spill, I suggest you leave." Janice stepped forward. She pulled a folder from her cart and placed it on the table. The Marlowe and Crane logo was stamped on the front. Beneath it, in bold, it read, "Shareholder Report." The room quieted. "What is this?" one board member asked. Janice opened the folder. "Proof," she said. "Proof of the unethical practices, the mismanagement, and the disregard for the people who keep this company running." Nathan's voice rose. "Who do you think you are, coming in here with accusations? You clean floors." Janice met his gaze, her voice unshaken. "No, Mr. Maddox. I own the majority of this company. And today, I'm terminating your position." Gasps filled the room. Nathan's face drained of color. "You're joking." "I'm not," Janice said calmly. "I have evidence, and I've spoken to legal counsel. This company needs to be saved from itself, and that starts with you leaving." The board reviewed the documents in silence. Expense fraud. Harassment reports buried. Unjust firings. Everything was documented and cross-verified. It was airtight. The vote didn't take long. Nathan Maddox was removed by majority vote. Security was called. He protested, shouted, threatened, but no one stopped them as he was escorted from the building. Janice stood in the conference room as the board looked at her with stunned silence. Some with guilt, some with awe. She didn't want applause. She wasn't done yet. In the weeks that followed, Janice got to work. She reinstated fair wages for janitorial and administrative staff. She hired a third-party firm to investigate all HR complaints and ensured every employee was trained in ethics, inclusion, and accountability. She created an open forum where any staff member could voice concerns without fear. She rewrote the company culture from the ground up. One afternoon, she passed the intern who had spilled the coffee months earlier. He stopped her. "Thank you," he said, with quiet sincerity. "For everything." Janice smiled. "We changed this place together." Outside, the Dallas skyline gleamed in the sun. Janice stood tall, no longer invisible. Her story was not about vengeance but justice. About courage. About proving that the quietest person in the room can hold the most power and change the world, one decision at a time.